Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy, and I have been inspired to create an autumn fall spread, I guess you'd call it, and I'm doing something very different than I think her name is Mags at the Woodland Hag. Her channel is the Woodland Hag, and I ended up being directed there by Julianne Victoria, who was doing a video response to what was going on. Again, I don't know if her name is Mags. I think it's Mags, the Woodland Hag. Anyway, her channel is the Woodland Hag, and I will put her original, a link to her original video in the description box below. If I don't, feel free to give me a kick in the behind in the comments, and I will amend the situation. But what she did was she sat down and she created her own spread that had to do with her associations with fall. And in her case, it was very focused on her spiritual path, her witchiness. And she was getting really deep and philosophical. Some of the questions were a little lighter, but yeah, she's just a deep and philosophical person. So that's where she went, and I, in my own cronehood, am not terribly philosophical, but I loved the idea of kind of getting in touch with what the season has meant to me. And I'm saying has meant because it doesn't mean as much to me now. Being in Alabama, the seasons aren't as pronounced, and again, having my health issues really takes a lot out of the fall season for me. So I wanted to just sort of reconnect, reminisce sort of, and so my associations with the fall, for one, is relief. Even when I lived in Michigan, much north of here, the fall was relief from summer heat. And when I get that relief from summer heat, my response is higher spirits. Just like, very common with animals also to have higher spirits once it starts to cool off. And another thing I associate it with is, so you have the colder outside, the natural world is getting colder, but when one is healthy, what happens is that your body responds by generating more internal heat in response to that. And so there's actually, to me, a sense of being more physically invigorated by both the outside coolness and the interior rising of heat. So oftentimes I have felt more alive in the fall. And, there has been for me a greater sense of freedom. So in the summertime, when there's the leaves and there's a lot of growth, and again, this is more association from my teens, it would become difficult, and it's true here in Alabama also, and at times when I've lived like in Tennessee, is that there's so much undergrowth, and the leaves prevent you from seeing, and there's a lot of barriers that are created by all of that growth. And so when the leaves fall away, there's a greater sense of freedom. There's a greater sense of freedom. Being able to see further, being able to go into places that may, out in the natural world, that may have been difficult to get into. during the summer months. So yeah, and there's generally just getting back outdoors. So those are things that and wild grapes. When we were kids, that I can feel it in my body even now, that it would be cool and it would be evening. And, even if it was like after school and we were outside and it was the evening time and dusk was falling, and we would all go to this old hedgerow that had trees and had wild grapes growing there, and we would just feast on the wild grapes. So really, the fall is a very sensual time, and not just the turning of the leaves. It was kind of a full body kind of a sensation. So the questions that I've come up with for this are, or things, I don't know that, it's funny because we don't quite frame them as questions, but anyway, what to unleash, what to free, that's the freedom, what to gather, what to savor. So those both the gathering, the savoring comes from the wild grapes. How will my relationship with the outdoors change? So this is a question kind of prompting me for where I'm at now. It could be that it won't change at all, just because of my current limitations and stuff. So that was kind of a question for me about now. So another thing that happens in the fall is that, you get the rattling of the leaves, certainly the leaves have their own whisperings and rustlings and ramblings, when during the summer and the spring, but during the fall they're especially boisterous and loud. And so one question is, what is the message of the leaves? So what is going to be the message of the leaves? And I've already started to see, how you'll get these stray leaves, and the wind will pick them up and they'll create whirlwinds. And I've thought about this, and I don't think I see those kind of whirlwinds occasionally in the winter, but I just am wondering if it is seasonally related. Those whirlwinds that we see, those low level, ground level little whirlwinds that swirl the leaves around. I always love them. I always love those. So my last question is, what will be rearranged by the whirlwind? So I've got the Vision Quest Tarot and the Vintage Wisdom, and I chose this deck. I hardly ever use it. It's so beautiful, but I haven't quite connected with it. So maybe after I'm done with this reading, maybe I'll take this deck to bed with me tonight and commune with it a little bit. But it has keywords, and I was wanting to make this relatively quick. So I'm doing this for keywords, and this is going to have very different messages. At least I'm thinking it will. And so I decided to use the Vintage Wisdom also. So what to unleash? Son of Air. So this might be quite literally in terms of leashes. I don't know that Rufus can be a son of air. Zippy could also be, although she's female, she could be a son of air because she's the fastest. She's the one who zips around. So this could be quite literally one of my animals. And that's part of the reason that I've got this deck. so that I'll have other options. So what to unleash? Innocence. Kind of romantic innocence. But I still get a doggy vibe from this. I still get kind of letting my dogs play or with maybe other dogs in a structured environment. I don't know. Or unstructured. This is unleashing, letting them play. Possibly. Before the fall is done, I will have an opportunity. I could do that with Boo. I don't think I could do that with Zippy or Rufus. But have a play date. Have a play date for Boo. She could have half a dozen play dates. She's a very social dog. What to gather? Depletion. But of course in fall time, it's like, it could be like the gathering of seeds, the gathering of leaves, the gathering of seed pods. But, you know, I'm not going to be doing that. I've done it in the past, actually. One year I made, I got a grapevine wreath, and I just gathered things from the woods, and I glued them on to the wreaths and gave them as gifts. It was one of the years in particular that I wasn't able to work because of the Lyme disease, but I was starting to come out of it and was able to do this, you know, so the strolling in the outside world was really healthy for me, and then to be able to make something relatively cheaply was also fun. But it's asking, I feel like it's asking me to gather things that are finished. Like I think I just did something about decks. I know I just did a video. Now whether I'll put it up before this video, hopefully I will. Anyway, I just did a video about just showing visually my decks, and at the end I had a box full of decks and was talking about, well, of the small decks, playing card decks, that I was going to let go of. So things that essentially have become spoiled or have not survived the summer. What to gather. And I think that that's what I need to do, is I need to gather them together and let them go. Maybe clear them out. Hard to say. So what to gather? Freedom. That's just what I was saying. Freedom. So I need to make a conscious effort to remember that aspect of fall and to act on that aspect of fall. To enjoy my freedom. And it's this, in Alabama, what is most limiting, I mean, there's still the underbrush thing, big time, but the heat is oppressive and is very limiting for me, and really for the dogs too, to go out and do anything. And so that is a big part of the freedom. So I'm to gather that freedom of the fall. And the weather has just turned within the past couple of days to be more moderate. It's just been insane. And to get out and to have some fun, either by myself or with my dogs. So what to savor? Ooh, transformation. And to me, this is the whole fall season, to just savor the whole transformation of the season. How cool is that? And what to savor? Love. So I'm not doing the romantic kind of love at the moment. So certainly, again, love of my pets, bonding with my pets, that has continued to develop as I work with them. And really, you know what, even just doing dog obedience. You know, I can be a disciplinarian, but you know, I just enjoy the heck out of them. I really do. Even when I have to get down and dirty and do some puppy wrestling, get them to do things. I really enjoy their personalities. I really do. And so I feel like that's part of that vibe, that they're saying what to just savor the things that you love. And as I admitted in that other video, the one previous to this one, I'm gathering decks, and so I will have some decks to savor, and I'm going to be going, I didn't say this in the other video, but I'm telling you now, I'm going to be going to a rock and gems show, or gem and mineral show, and so that will certainly be something to love and to savor. Okay, so how will my relationship to the outdoors change during this season? Oh, hurt. That's not a good sign. So I think of hurt. This makes me wonder if we're gonna have a really rapid change to even colder weather that can happen here, where we just have hot, and then cold, and we don't have any cool, nice Indian summer type weather. When that happens, I actually do have pain in my hands. I have an old case of tendonitis in my hand. But I can also look at this card and forget about the keyword and just look at it being the nighttime. I feel like there's still a warning here. But, well, there's a couple of things. But one of the things is that after work, it's going to be dark. But I could still take my dogs for a walk in the evening. At least two of them, probably any of them I could take for a walk in the evening, even if it's quite cool. But hurt also could be, I've got some climbing roses that I need to trim back, and so that could hurt because of the thorns. And I need to do some scrubbing of some porch steps, and that could hurt. Probably not doing it, but afterwards I could easily get sore from doing that. So this may be telling me that I should, that there will be some physical stretching and taking care of things that will result in some physical pain. So, how will my relationship to the outdoors change? Wisdom. Oh, and there's another owl. Maybe I'll have an owl. Wouldn't that be cool? At one time, I had an owl, but I think it was during the summer or spring, and it wasn't for a prolonged period. It was maybe a couple of months. I would, certain times of the evening, I would hear the hoo, hoo, hoo going on, but it's been a long time, and there was some clearing of some trees in areas of forest that made it, I think, unlikely that we would have a good place for owls. But there's also a meadow, so it's a good place for hunting. Not necessarily for nesting, but for hunting. And one of the things that just recently happened, and pretty much in timing with the weather change, it's not a dramatic weather change. It is about a 30-degree weather change, but it's not like I could still wear shorts, And I normally have, and this has been a good 3 years that I've had a wren, and I assume it's a male wren because there's no nest. And my understanding is that the male wren builds a nest, and often multiple nests, and then the female inhabits it, and he nests or roosts away from the nest, is how he lives. So I think he does help the female, but once it's time to settle down at night, he finds a separate roosting spot. And so I've had a male wren roosting in a corner of my porch. So there's a little ledge up near where the porch meets the roof of the porch, and he just comes and he hangs out in one of those corners, usually the same corner all summer long. And eventually he disappears, and he just this past few days he's gone. So maybe he'll be replaced by an owl. I'm not sure. Or some other, maybe not an owl, but some other bird. Will be a change of local animals. I'm not sure how I would get wisdom. To be honest, out of the outdoors, that would be a change. But hey, maybe so. I'm open to it. What is the message of the leaves? Inner order. Isn't that interesting? 8 of Earth. And it's interesting to me because this is a time when they're becoming very disorderly. They're falling off. And yet, as I said, there's the whole swirling, the going into the spiral. So they're freed from their earthly order. They're free from attachment. But they're still, I would say, kind of subject to another form of order, which looks like chaos, those whirlwinds. And it could also be seen as the whole returning to the earth as a form of inner order. In other words, they're going into having been created above the earth, that they are now going into the earth. And that is part of the cycle. They're going in the inner order. And the message for me, I think, is to maybe make order in my home. If I think of inner order, I've got clutter issues that I've been chipping away at half-heartedly, I admit. And so this would be really positive if this season helped me to achieve some inner order as an order in my home. Inner order as in my personal interior, possibly by forming some constructive and healthier habits. I could also see that. It's a strange message from the leaves who are going into a whirlwind or sinking down into the earth at this time, but I'll take it. All right, what is the message of the leaves? Release. So with inner order, that's really interesting combination, because to me that means that as you release, all right, so I could see the inner order is not the leaves, it's the branches of the trees. So as the leaves drop, we see the inner order of the branches that have been holding them up. And so that by releasing things, it's almost like by releasing things, you see what's truly important, or what the basic structure is, should you care to add things to it again in the future. And this speaks to some goals that I have. I don't know if I'll be able to accomplish them financially during this period, but some rearranging of how I do things. Like I'd like to have all of the carpet taken out of my home and have linoleum put down in all of the rooms. It's a scary expense and project in general in terms of everything being disrupted, like the leaves in the whirlwind. But I would be released from dealing with vacuum cleaners and vacuuming, which I find more difficult than sweeping. I find sweeping kind of meditative. And the level of filth that accumulates because of my dogs in carpets. So yeah, some interesting messages from the leaves. What will be rearranged by a whirlwind? Fear. Oh gosh, isn't that interesting? And I'm not even going to ponder that, because I think that that is something that will kind of present itself at the time. I'm not aware of the fear. I mean, it could be the financial fear that I was just talking about, worried about how much it would cost to make some changes. So it could be that. But I feel like this is something that will kind of play out in its own time, that I don't need to analyze or anticipate it. What will be rearranged by a whirlwind? Oh my goodness, trust and fear. What a great combo. What a great combo, because they're so related. Gosh, maybe I'll start to fear things I've trusted and trust things that I formerly feared. Wow. That last one was really interesting. But again, I still feel like this is something that will... This is like prep for when it happens, but I feel like that this message is not something that actually can be analyzed, because they're both, especially the fear is so emotion oriented, that it's like I'll have to wait for the moment to arrive, and just know that the whirlwind is rearranging things that that I feel like are good. I think this is a good rearranging. It's fascinating. It's like, all right, rearrange my fear. Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks for stopping by and watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.